Hey YouTube, Dawson Ryder here. Welcome to a new video series in honor of Super Sentai's 50th anniversary. The point of this series is to go over my experience and thoughts on each of the Sentai I've seen in chronological order. Obviously, you clicked on this video, starting with Jetman. It's not going to be a formal review where I dig deep into each character and arc and everything. If there's a specific arc or character I want to call out, of course I'll mention it, but it's not going to be like my series review. The first part of it's going to be talking about my experience with the series, whether I watched it live or backlogged it, if it was any kind of special or memorable experience, or if I maybe rewatched it and it changed my mind, and then kind of give some of my overall thoughts. Then the last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put it in a tier list, and then by the end of the series I'll have kind of a full tier list, and I'll explain the sort of rankings of that at the very end. I did a sort of similar series when we had 45, trying to do videos tributing Sentai, but I had too many different ranking ideas, and then between that and all the other videos I had to do, it just kind of got lost. So I'm hoping I'm actually able to complete this series. It might run past it, but since I only have to do one for each of them, I'm hoping to have this completed by the time we finish Gojuger. And one note, I am going through this chronologically, obviously, like I said, which is Jetman through present. However, there is going to be a weird gap in the middle, as I have not seen Gingaman through Time Ranger yet. There is a chance I might watch Gingaman by the time I get to it, but I don't want to force myself to binge all three of them before I can get to them. I think that will negatively color my experience. That certainly would be something I could talk about, but I don't want to force that on myself. So if I do videos for those, they will be later and out of order. So sorry, there's a weird blank gap in the middle. A man named Gary Gergich screwed up this series. He had one job. But let's go ahead and get started with Chojin Sentai Jetman, the only pre-Zyuranger series I have seen in full. I do hope to watch others someday, specifically Live Man, but for now it's the only one I've seen. So as far as my experience with this was one of the ones that was absolutely hyped up to me when I first got into Sentai. I don't really know what the temperature is on a lot of the groupthink. I know some of the modern groupthink, but a lot of the groupthink now about what's recommended, kind of like with Ryder, I don't know if Hibiki's still considered a black sheep, but with this series, it was definitely one of the ones that was recommended to me the most, touted as one of the best Sentai ever, so mature, it's practically an adult show, Breaking Bad, put it on HBO, all that Sentai nonsense. But it got me hyped up for it. I was pretty excited for it. It was also exciting to see a series where I wasn't familiar with anything at all. Obviously, when I started Sentai with stuff like Geki Ranger and whatnot, watching it week to week, it was all brand new to me. It wasn't something I'd seen in PR. But everything else that I had backlog watched, obviously I was sort of familiar with because I recognized a lot of the footage from PR and all that stuff. And this was going to be the first backlog series outside of Die Ranger, which is a weird midway point because a lot of it I obviously hadn't seen because we didn't use the suits. But the first backlog series where I was going to have 50 episodes to watch and everything was brand new. I wasn't going to recognize any footage at all. I always really liked the suits. I love the idea of a bird Sentai. I think they got a great design. You know, you got Owl in there, which is my favorite animal. So I was pretty stoked about it. You know, they definitely hyped me up. And I believe I watched this back in the day as part of, like, we called it book club with the old RR podcast hosts, where we'd watch, I think, 2 episodes each week or something like that, and then compare notes and all that. And that's really the only way I ever watched it. And I'll just say, I like this series fine, but it definitely did not live up to the hype. It certainly feels different than modern Sentai, both at the time when I was watching it and now. I mean, every era of Sentai has different subsets and pockets that feel different. You know, this era of Sentai feels different even than late 90s Sentai. It feels different than early 2000s Sentai, than late 2000s Sentai, to now Sentai. You know, it's kind of like what I talk about with Kamen Rider Gaim, how I loved that mood it had, because it evoked early Heisei mood, which we don't really have anymore. So it certainly has a different mood and style. There were certain things that they were allowed to do or wanted to do back then. Like, I don't know, do characters smoke? I know that there was, like, I don't know if it was Jetman, but there was like one where they had beer cans in there and it was just in the corner. And I legitimately remember, this was back when people would upload Toku onto Facebook and you could watch it there. I remember one of the comments being like, "This is why Sentai is more mature. Look, there's beer." And it was just the most juvenile Sentai purist reaction to something. Bottom line is that it does feel more mature at times in the way it's presented and just the way the show unfolds, almost feeling like a drama series, especially when you have the romance. But it also has a lot of par for the course Sentai tropes and filler and all that stuff, so I was like going in expecting a masterpiece, and there were certain things I obviously really liked. Like, I did enjoy the love triangle stuff. I'm kind of a sucker for those storylines, if I'm being honest. I totally got pulled into it in the Kamen Rider Kiva series. Ryder's coming up an awful lot in the Sentai video, but you know what I mean? I really did like that. I think they had a good cast of characters. There were some really strong, standout, epic, mature moments. The name of the villain is escaping me at the moment, but the robot villain guy he was really good. Also, as a side note, I'm not going to have the best memory about some of these. I didn't want to do rewatches for these videos because A, it would take forever for them to come out. but also I wanted to just kind of go in with my thoughts and feelings and experience. I might one day do a rewatch of these series and do a formal review, but for this, my memory might be fuzzy because it's been a while since I've seen it. Jetman is one of the series I want to revisit. Like, I probably should finish that gap of Sentai haven't seen from Gingaman through Time Ranger first before I rewatch, but Jetman is on the top of the list of Sentai I want to rewatch because I feel that the overhype really just oversold it. You know, I was going in with too high of expectations, and even when something truly is really good, unless it's something absolutely crazy like The Substance, which just, it doesn't matter how high you set the expectations, it's gonna blow your mind. Usually, even if the thing that's being recommended is truly that good, if you set the recommendation too high and the expectations too high, then you're always going to be disappointed. And that's the way I felt about it, because I was expecting a completely different experience, and there was different things in it, but it was still very much par for the course Sentai with silly filler episodes, and I didn't think it was as engaging as I thought it was going to be. So I'm kind of hoping to go in one day to a rewatch, just with no expectations, maybe with the only leaning is hoping to come out with a more positive experience. Because there has been a few Sentai that I either didn't like or I liked okay, and then I rewatched it and I enjoyed it a little bit more, and that helped me form more of an attachment to it. Now, one thing, or one of the last things I'll say in regards to the plot is, spoiler alert, just so you know, if you don't want spoilers, just leave or whatever, but this is like a 30, 40-year-old series. I don't even know, maybe not 40 years. It's a long time ago. It's no longer a secret. It's information. I hate the ending with a guy dying and bleeding out on the bench like an idiot. Now, I've seen people levy the argument of he didn't want to ruin his friend's wedding. Now, that would work if he simply didn't want to have them being the ones to drive him to the hospital and didn't want to ruin the day, let them go. But then go to the hospital. You'll be fine. It was not heroic, it was moronic and stupid. And I think of two scenes when I think about this ending. I think of that scene in Amazing Spider-Man 1 where he goes, "My weakness, it's small knives." And the scene in Pineapple Express when Dale goes to Red when he's been shot or whatever, and he was in far worse shape, and he survived, but he goes to him and he goes, "Go to the hospital right now, they'll save your life." I thought it was really dumb. So many people hype that up as such a heroic, amazing death, and I think it's so moronic, and I think that did cover a little bit of a negative energy towards the series for me, so I never really liked that. But Jetman, a series that is highly, highly recommended by so many people. I think it's a solid Sentai series. The only negative emotions I really have towards it is the overhype and the hatred of that ending. But otherwise, it's not something like Zyuranger or Ninja where I look at it really negatively. It just was kind of a letdown. But I hope to revisit it one day and maybe I'll have a more positive experience. Now, as far as this tier list goes, obviously this is going to be pretty basic. You know, S tier, that's obviously the worst. It stands for shirt, you know what I mean. S obviously is the best, my favorite. Not just my favorite, but specifically ones that are special to me in some way. And then A tier is still best of the best, but for whatever reason just falls short of my tops. They might even be ones that are in my top 10, but like S tier are just ones that are special to me. A tier are ones that I think are the best, but I just don't necessarily have a personal connection with. I don't know why I said it like that. I said that like Chandler Bing for some reason. The hills are alive with the sound of music. B tier, it's just overall, you know, it's solid. It was pretty good, but it had its flaws, but it was overall solid. C tier is middle of the road. Obviously, it's just kind of, you know, it was a basic Sentai experience. It had its good, it had its bad. I might rewatch it someday, but I'd rather not. And then D tier is obviously the worst of the worst. For me personally, at this current moment, I'm gonna put Jetman in the C tier. It was kind of a mixed bag for me. Positive and negatives, a rewatch could put it up higher, but just based on my experience, I have to go with that. But anyways, guys, until next time, let me know your thoughts on Jetman. I hope you enjoy this series. Next one, obviously, is going to be Zyuranger, which should be an interesting one. Until next time, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and climb the steps and ring that bell to get notifications for more videos like this and more. Dawson Ryder, signing out.